My guest today is Krawiec, a principal in Deloitte's government and public services practice. RJ, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you for having me.
Let me set just a little bit of context for our discussion today. Whenever you hear about the current and future state of artificial intelligence, especially generative AI, one common refrain seems to bubble to the top. The human always has to be in the loop. In fact, the Harvard Data and Science Review says the term human in the loop, or here's a new acronym, HITL, and if you knew that one, RJ, generally refers to the need for human interaction, intervention, and judgment to control or change the outcome of a process. And in fact, the Office of Management and Budget reiterated the importance of this concept in its March 2024 policy on governance, innovation, and managing risks around AI. In that memo, OMB says in the section around risks of using AI, agencies need to ensure that humans are involved in making decisions or in whatever action the tools take, as well as making sure humans are aware of how the tools impacted the decision in the first place. Now, the idea is for agencies to take measured and controlled approaches to using AI and guard against any real or perceived biases. Now, this is why pairing human knowledge and experiences with AI capability could give agencies the ability to tackle complex decisions with greater confidence and ensure accuracy and equity. For how best agencies compare their expert employees with advanced technology tools, this is where you come in, RJ. Let's start at the beginning, the human in the loop. Talk a little bit about why this is becoming a bigger issue for a lot more agencies and organizations.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jason, and thanks for asking. It's becoming a bigger issue because the benefits are becoming more and more, and there's just more of a need to capture those benefits for the individual workers within the workforce and for teams. Because there's huge potential when you can pair the power of AI and technology with the experience, the knowledge, the values of individual workers. There's a term that's often used called the centaur model. And of course, a centaur is a mythical being that is part horse, part person. And why it's powerful is it combines the benefits of both. You've got the raw power of a horse with the articulation and mental abilities of a person to have a better overall, more powerful overall solution. And we're seeing the same things here. Because the strengths of AI and humans are synergistic. AI is great at consistency, at precision, at analyzing large sets of data, and seeing things that humans can do but take a lot of time to do, versus humans, which have innately, most humans have a knowledge of human values and judgment, and to apply to multiple contexts outside of just a specific task, and allow a better overall solution at a more efficient, effective cost.
I had a very interesting conversation just recently about the power of the AI tool and why you want to use it for specific reasons, but also keep the human in the loop. And I think the pieces and parts you just brought together, the idea of precision, looking through large data sets, but keeping the human in the knowledge base really is something that agencies are coming around to. This is an easy thing to talk about, but do agencies get caught up, or do organizations get caught up in losing one or the other? It's too much humans, too much AI. What's the balance starting to look like?
So it's less about the technology that needs to improve and more about the adoption of it. And the practical steps there are spending time demystifying the technology so it's more readily accepted and people are less scared. People are scared of what they don't know. And so to lower the barriers and inform and build the trust really are the first steps that I see that anybody can do today to start making a difference.
We know when we're talking about technology, the crawl, walk, run, right? So a lot of agencies are in that crawl stage. They're starting to, okay, how can we test it? Are you seeing some good sandboxes, some good examples, some good dipping the toe in the water across some of your clients?
Sure, I see a bunch of them. One of the benefits of AI is really great for learning and development, right? Like an old trade-off of training was you could either create a general training that applied to lots of people and deliver it efficiently or effectively. Or you could have highly individualized training, which is great, but you can only apply it to a certain number of people. AI, as an example, allows you to get highly specific around a very niche area to a particular style of learning and improve that workforce at scale.
We're seeing also growth, and there was a recent Government Accountability Office report about the use of like virtual reality, what they're calling really the next emerging set of technologies. I imagine this like synthetic environment you're talking about falls in that area too. Is okay, how can we start using some of these other pieces to on top of the AI, like the VR, virtual reality?
That's exactly right. So headset on the person you're trying to train. You can see, imagine there is a new model of transport vehicle that an Army officer is using. They can see that, they can see in theater, and they can have a piece that's vital to it, imagine in real life. And as they're looking over that, they can see instructions for what to do for it, where to apply it on the vehicle, and it helps teach them how to use this thing, even if the larger transport vehicle isn't directly in front of them, or even the context in which it's used in theater, they're not currently in.
A lot of the agencies, when they're looking at AI, are trying to apply it to the front side mission. Hey, how can we improve how we deliver services to citizens, or how can we use AI? But what you're talking about a lot of is the back office, and I think that's a much more comfortable place for a lot of agencies. They know, for instance, on learning and development, your example, we know goes into it. Hey, if we have a contracting officer who are going to get into level 3, we know what that includes. How can we put that data, that information into the AI model, into the AI large language model, and then apply it to the training? Is that a trend you're seeing where people are much more comfortable maybe starting in that back office?
Not only a trend I'm seeing, but also that is the biggest opportunity. As someone with a business background, I just love this because it offers so much benefit. It reduces cost and increases capability at the same time, which you don't often see. And it's reducing those back office tasks that allow government workers to operate, to borrow a term from the medical industry, operate at the top of their license. When you think of a specialist, a doctor specialist, a portion of their time goes to administrative tasks, to doing things that many doctors can do, and some percentage of their time spent doing very highly specialized tasks. If you can reduce that administrative load, government workers can spend more time on innovative things, mission-focused things, human-focused things, making a difference to the people that they're trying to make a difference to. And those are the easiest things to do. So again, the strengths of AI are precision, performing rote tasks, analyzing large sets of data, which humans can do, but take a long time to do it. So freeing them up allows them to work at the top of their license and make more of an impact to constituents on a daily basis.
In the late 2010s, right before we got into the fun of the 2020s, there was this big push for upskilling, reskilling, but also getting folks out of that low-value work. There was a big push for robotics process automation, intelligent automation. That was the precursor to where we are heading to today. The impact of RPA, the impact of intelligent automation has been really heavily on that back office. How has that kind of started to pave the pathway towards the more advanced Gen AI type of stuff that people now are overly excited about?
Interesting question. So again, as you consider the crawl, walk, run model, I think a lot of work still needs to happen on the back office rote tasks. How do we reduce administrative tasks? Mm-hmm. I think that again, because it's so good at those things, it'll free workers up to be able to do more and make more of an impact. Also, we find that the happiness goes up because people get to do what they like, the more enjoyable tasks as opposed to the administrative work.
Yeah, the idea of, oh God, I've filled out the spreadsheet again, another data call where I have to, RJ, give me the data, RJ, give me the data, right, from 10 different people.
That's right. And you did mention the like when I hear robotics, now process robotics doing mental tasks, lots of work to do there. You mentioned it because I just know a lot of people think that how does AI translate into the real world? Deloitte did a study of 19,000 job tasks from the Department of Labor looking to mimic the broader US workforce. And we found some areas where humans are still outperforming AI, and along with areas with high context variability, along with areas with a lot of human-facing work, think like a coach or a counselor. The physical areas were also still outperformed by the humans. So vehicle maintenance, things like that, still need a human to do.
The AI coach.
That's right.
Just someone on this island holding a pad. All right, boys. All right, girls. Here's what the.
Exactly.
Hopefully, it's not coming. Then we get the other side of this. Of course, is in just touch upon is the concern that I'm still surprised I hear, but the more people I talk to seem to say this is still a concern of AI is going to take my job, I'm going to lose my job, and your point of get them out of that roteness and get them into more interesting, more meaningful tasks. Do you still hear that concern that the AI is going to take my job, or is it just hard to give things up? Right? We all like what we do, and change is hard. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
All the time I hear it, and it's back to my point around the limitations or the level of impact. When we look back 10 years from now and assess how much of an impact AI has, my theory is it'll be more based on the level of adoption than it is on the quality of technology. Quality of technology today has lots of impact to be able to make. It's just people fear what they don't know. And as this is a bigger unknown, people keep it at arm's length for reasons of, I don't want it to put me out of a job. I don't understand how to use it, and I don't have easy on-ramps, which goes back to my practical person's guide to adopt AI, has less to do with the technology and more to do with fostering a collaborative culture with your workforce between the people and the technology. And those are the things that you can do today to pave the ground for using AI tools and technologies sooner.
RJ, we're coming up against the break, but before, and we'll get into that more details in terms of the human-AI relationship. But let me just ask you, when you talk about more about the people and less about the tech, too often we spend too much time on the tech. We get excited. Is that just a leadership issue? Hey, we have to keep people's focus on the right path versus the other path? Or is it just, it's human nature, so we just, lack of a better word, have to fight through it in a positive way?
Yeah, I'd hesitate to blame leadership on that, although leadership can certainly do a lot to help foster that sense of community between AI and humans. But yeah, it's human nature. You go and play with it. It's a sandbox, it's novel, and you're like, great. And then oftentimes people will fail to make the leap between, this is cool and I just asked it to write me a song, to how can I build it into my workflow? And that's where leadership has an opportunity to find practical pilots that are real world problems with measurable results and visible outcomes, where they can demonstrate to the workforce, hey, this is useful, and start to introduce some use cases so that people begin to use it and then allow it to flourish from there.
And that's part of the crawl, walk, run we talk often about, as I mentioned, that I saw what it can do. Now I get more comfortable with it. Now let's use it for more things. RJ, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll delve into what those more things are. My guest today is RJ Krawiec, a principal in Deloitte's Government and Public Services practice. I'm Jason Miller, and you're listening to the discussion Teaming AI and Humans, sponsored by Deloitte on Federal News Network. Welcome back. You're listening to the discussion Teaming AI and Humans, sponsored by Deloitte on Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guest today is RJ Krawiec, a principal in Deloitte's Government and Public Services practice. RJ, before break, we're talking a lot about the build-up to AI, understanding where it can make a big difference, where it can have a big effect. Back office is a great example. You mentioned a recent study where Deloitte looked at about 19,000 different job tasks where AI could maybe play a role. Let's delve into that a little bit, because that's fascinating. What are some of those job tasks that were surprising to you, stood out to you? Talk a little bit more about that study.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. What we found was, we did this study because it was a question we frequently got. Our government agencies would say, well, where should I use this? What's the lowest hanging fruit, to borrow a term, or where can it make the biggest impact? So we did a study trying to mimic the broader US workforce of where AI can make a big difference, where it outperforms humans and where humans still outperform AI. And as I mentioned, the humans outperforming AI are around tasks with a lot of context variability, where all the information around the actual question matters greatly. Also around some of the human-facing empathetic work, think, like I mentioned before, coaching. And then physical tasks, like maintaining vehicles. But The important thing to note is any sort of work task has multiple steps. So even in areas where, oh yeah, the AI performs well here, it's always some areas, not usually all areas. So imagine a government lawyer that needs to make an argument in a case, in court. A lot of steps go into, the vast majority of the work rather happens before that lawyer walks into the courtroom. They need to look at old cases, analyze evidence, take all of the previous decisions and make a judgment on where they think this case should go, then put together the argument, and finally walk in to court. Now, in that instance, with all those steps, AI would perform great at the beginning of it. Analyzing lots of cases is looking through a huge set of data. So in the past, where that lawyer and their team might have been able to look through 10 cases, you can now look through 100, where they could have analyzed the results around a few aspects. Now they can do many, which would equip that lawyer to then make a better, more effective judgment, and therefore make a more effective case in court. Because those last pieces, AI doesn't do well at all.
And this is where the humans then come back in the loop. You take those 100 cases, put it through the AI tools, the information comes back, and then the lawyer, the human, this point goes, okay, does that make sense what I'm getting? Do I see this? I read 2 of the 3 cases, and does it all make sense? And if it doesn't, you can go back and retrain the model, or say throw out the model altogether because it didn't work. And I think that's why this is important that there's to go back to your centaur model, the humans leading the back end of the horse.
Yeah, and that's why one of the important points here is that AI does not replace humans, it only supplements. And that's a perfect example of playing to AI's strengths. Look through lots of data, analyze it so that I can use my knowledge, my experience, my judgment, and my values to then take something and do something with it. And to your point, yes, here's lots of different examples. Here's an analysis. The human gets to say, I like this part, I don't like this part. What if you combined it with this part, and then see what happens? Because AI right now isn't a silver bullet yet. Not only do you need to make sure from a technology side that the model can be trusted, the answers that you're giving can be trusted, but also human has to be kept in the loop to apply that judgment in various places.
It feels like we are, I'll say this nicely, decades away from being the point where we can trust the AI fully, right? Where you take your case with the example with lawyers, whatever comes from it, I'll just trust it and go into court. I feel like but we can get better about it. We can train the models. That's why using the large language models, and they can continue to be updated and improved upon. Is that just that's a natural course of technology? If we go back, Microsoft Word in 1995 was not as good as it is today. It's part of the evolution of any technology.
I agree with you, and I will let us all as a society decide when the AI gets better, how much humans should be brought in the loop at the time. But I agree with you. We're years and years away from it being standalone. Right now, it is a tool to help government workers make a bigger impact, make workers in the commercial space make a bigger impact in their organizations.
Though RJ, I would argue WordPerfect 5.1 was perfect.
The pinnacle.
Was perfect. There's a whole soapbox I'll get on about that. You talked a lot about getting people ready. Let's talk a little bit about workforce training too, because I think you mentioned the folks have to be comfortable with it. They have to get some time on using the tools, seeing how they work. What goes into this idea of getting the workforce more prepared for AI?
I love that question because it's the things that people can do today, because the technology's out there if people are willing to adopt it. And so I've got 6 steps actually on what to do. And because I'm not an AI, I need some notes in order to be able to recall all 6.
Let's go through all 6.
All right. So first I see is educate and inform. Got to talk about the benefits of AI, why it's useful to a person, and at all levels of an organization. This isn't just a leadership thing. This isn't just let the new folks do it. It's all levels of the organization. Also in that step it's important to be sensitive to concerns. You mentioned some earlier, the AI is going to take my job, or I'm not sure how to use this. Listen to what they're saying so that you can, the point of this is to dispel myths, to allow people to adopt it. Next is demonstrate value. Spoke about being smart where you roll out projects first. Find real world application, practical benefits, measurable benefits, to build that sense of trust and have people say, oh, that's useful in this case. An example might be a AI tool that takes notes in a meeting and summarizes it and sends it out to everybody on a team, regardless of whether or not they were there. Because in that instance, where a person who missed the meeting would have to talk to somebody else to come up to speed, they now have a comprehensive and synthesized list of what happened there, which doesn't drain team resources. Next, you've got to make sure that you're providing training as tailored as possible, aiming to that part of the hitch that stops people from adopting it, that intimidation factor, reduce that intimidation. Make it as simple as possible, and again, target it at all levels. And with the use of AI, you can even target specifically to use cases and people. Next, you've got to foster inclusivity. This is meant to supplement and enhance your workforce. Include them. Ask them questions. Ask their opinions. How do they want to use this? What problems could it solve? And then take that feedback and build it into the process and the technologies. What that does is increase a sense of ownership and brings the workforce along on the journey so that they're more likely to use it. Next, support and resources. Initial training is important, but ongoing support is critical to better enable the technologies to be used in the workflow. There's going to be problems will inevitably rise, so troubleshooting. And then as people learn it and want to explore more advanced cases, providing the support to do so. And finally, as always, monitor and adopt. This is not a set it and forget it. This is, you need to continue to assess the impact. You need to refine the approach and better align it with organizational needs. And the key there is simple. It's just be open to feedback and just be looking and have as little sense of authorship or pride as you can to be able to pivot.
Really appreciate you laying out those 6 steps. We'll make sure we make it easy for folks to find them and understand them on federalnewsnetwork.com as well. I can go through them all, but let me just pop on the one that I think is most important is the demonstrating of value, real world projects, building that sense of trust. I think too many times when technology comes into play, when it becomes part of your day-to-day, until you find, oh, that aha moment, oh, that's what it can do for me. And I think like your lawyer example, or you're even note-taking, I could imagine a time when you and I are in a meeting and I'm taking notes in real time, you're using the AI, and then we compare our notes and, oh, your notes are a lot better than mine. I don't have to take notes anymore. That's how you build that trust. Are you starting to see our agencies having those aha moments now where they're going, oh, I used to have to do it this way, but I saw what the tool does and I feel more comfortable?
Yes, those are ordinarily the first steps we see, where it's really basic things. So some value is added and it's like, oh yeah, man, I hated taking notes for a meeting. Now this saves me, and then summarizing it in an email and sending it out. This thing saves me a half an hour of time. I love it, let's use it. The other thing that I often see that holds government departments and agencies from using it is just the idea that everything has to be perfect before it goes forward. Right. There's a classic study that they took a group of adults and a group of kids and said, build a tower with marshmallows and spaghetti. And all the adults got together, and you or I are in a team, and we're building this elaborate tower, and right before the time limit is up that we're given, we're like, okay, I think it's perfect, let's do an unveil. And what happened is that they fell over consistently all the time. And what was left was this rubble. The children's room they took a completely different approach. They were just trying. There wasn't an unveil. It was like, oh, I'm building this, I'm building that. And consistently, they would build larger towers because they took an iterative approach, an exploratory approach, and weren't trying to go for perfect. They were just trying to progress and move forward. And I think the same thing applies here.
There's more to talk through those 6 steps, but let me just shift over to another important topic, which is the technology infrastructure, the technology underpinning of this. Not just the tools of AI, but all the pieces and parts. Just briefly, what are some of those considerations for the CIOs and their staffs?
Yeah, that's great. Really important for IT managers and developers and business analysts to look at the technology side of things. The 2 biggest inputs I would have is 1, make sure that you're focused on the user experience, how they're using it. Seek input, make it easy for them, understand whether the people using it are experts or more novices, and then build it around them. Because again, adoption is the problem, not the limits of the technology. And in terms of that adoption in deployment, the more black box a technology or a process is, I find the more hesitant people are to use it. I encourage as much transparency, as much accountability as possible to say, here's the policy, here's the data, here's the algorithm that goes into crafting this response, so that the human can say, oh, I trust this. You're trying to answer the question of, hey, this gave me an answer. Is this relevant? Is this right to me in this situation? Another best practice to do that is allowing users to opt in when they use it. If you paid attention during Apple's announcement of their AI solution, they have a partnership with ChatGPT, and every time they send data to it, they ask for user input to say, put them in control, put the user in control. You can use this if you want to. And giving that autonomy, giving building the trustworthiness and showing what happens in here, we find increases the adoption.
You hit upon a lot of really interesting and important pieces that bring all this together: the trust, the transparency, but also just going to what the users want or what they need. So a lot there. Unfortunately, we're out of time. So there's more to talk about, as always, with AI, and I'm sure we will in the near future. But let me thank my guest. RJ Krawiec is a principal in Deloitte's Government and Public Services practice. RJ, thanks so much for taking the time today.
Thank you for having me, Jason. This has been a pleasure.
I'm Jason Miller, and you've been listening to the discussion Teaming AI and Humans, sponsored by Deloitte on Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Deloitte.